Hello everybody, my name is Sniping Fun, and I welcome you all back to this quick video of me basically giving my thoughts on a certain subject, that being Jump Force's roster. For those of you that have been in the know for the last, it's almost been a year since this game's been announced. It was announced, back at E3 last year. Jump Force on the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, I think it's on the PC as well. It's like an all, I think it's an all arena, open arena type fighting game for anime characters, for Shonen Jump anime manga characters. It's like what J-Stars was back in the day on the PS3, PS4, and whatnot, and Vita. Like, it's an arena fighting game of anime characters from Shonen Jump, from Weekly Shonen Jump. And I'm sure if you're an anime fan or fighting game fan or whatever, you've probably been keeping up with this game since its inception, since it was announced back at E3 of last year, of 2018, and you've been keeping, and a lot of you have probably been keeping up to date, probably watching a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of stuff for when, Bandai Namco was announcing characters for this game like crazy over the last couple months. There was characters announced in this show, this character's announced in this magazine scan, this, and there's like people are like climbing on the teams like, when's this certain character going to be announced? This certain character, this, and now we finally know the final roster of, at least the base roster of Jump Force, which comes out next week. I've heard there's variations of it that come out, like special editions that come out on Tuesday. The bulk of them, the main versions of the game, coming out on the 15th, that Friday, which is obviously my pre-order is fully paid off. I'm just waiting for it. But like, this video is going to be my thoughts on the final main roster Jump Force, the pros and the cons, my thoughts on it, and what I like about it and what I don't like about it, / what I think could have been. And if you've been listening to fans and have been watching various YouTubers that have been keeping you up to date on this and them speaking their opinions, you know there's a lot of issues also that might be brought up with my video too, just like theirs with this roster and what I feel it included and did not include. But as such, let's first start off, before I give my thoughts on the rosters, pros and cons, let's start off and look at the 40 characters. It's been announced 40 characters that are going to be on this roster. For Dragon Ball, they have Goku, Vegeta, Trunks, Frieza, Piccolo, Cell. That's pretty decently good, given that it's like one of the biggest franchises that they're giving characters to. I know there's a lot of people that say they would want like Gohan or Android, 18, or Boo or Broly or something like that too. But it's like, I think they got fairly good representation in that. For One Piece, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Martha D. Teach, aka Blackbeard, Boa Hancock, and Sabo. Cool to see all those characters. That's a pretty decent lineup. You got yourself a villain representation in there, not the same villain representation they had in Jump and J-Stars either, so it's different. That's one thing I do like about the roster. Before I even talk about my opinions on it, I like that it's at least differentiating itself from J-Stars by not picking the exact same characters. So yeah, but like, we got Sabo, he's cool. I wanted him in there. Boa Hancock's cool representation. Obviously 3 members of the Straw Hats. That's cool. I think it's pretty decent. Naruto, we obviously have Naruto, Sasuke, Kaguya, Gaara, Kakashi, and Boruto. Obviously, you're going to have Naruto and Sasuke. We kind of need, like, Kakashi's cool and Gaara's cool because neither of them were in J-Stars. And they're 2 major characters, popular characters in the series. Kaguya is a cool, different representation. I know a lot of people wanted Madara, but I'm kind of cool with it, even though I'm not super that far. I've never got that far into Naruto. I'm still very far behind Shippuden. But I'm cool that they're not just rinse and repeating J-Stars with Madara, even though Madara is probably a cooler, more developed character than Kaguya. Kaguya is like the main final villain, so including her probably for storyline purposes especially is kind of cool. And obviously they have to include Boruto, given how big Boruto Next Generation is, kind of thing. I don't have a problem with that. We have 2 Saint Seiya characters, Pegasus Seiya and Dragon Shiryu. That's kind of cool. They probably could have added more, but because of Saint Seiya's history. But 2 characters is about the same we got in J-Stars. Then we got Ryo Saiba from City Hunter. That's a cool representation because it's a series that I think hasn't really gotten love a lot lately from Shonen Jump. That's kind of cool. Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, obviously from Bleach. We got Ichigo, Renji, Aizen, and Rukia. That's about the same we actually had, I think, in J-Stars, except this time we have Renji in as well. Because Aizen was in there. Yeah, that's the same. I think it's Ichigo, Aizen and Rukia were all in J Stars, and then they said Renji. But that's like good, decent representation. The only characters it's really missing is like probably like Ichi, or maybe some other one of the good guys or villains or something. But those are like the main ones to really represent, anyways. And really, Ichi is the only really missing major choice in my opinion on that. Then we have Hunter x Hunter Gon, Killua, Kurapika. Hope I'm pronouncing these names right. I've never actually watched Hunter x Hunter. And Hisoka, which a lot of people are happy that Hisoka got in, given that he was only an assist character in J Stars. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool to finally see him in as well. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Jotaro and Dio, pretty good inclusion there. We got Yusuke Urameshi and younger Toguro from Yu Yu Hakusho. That's pretty good representation there. Kenshin Himura and Makoto Shishio from Rurouni Kenshin. That's pretty decent representation there. Yugi from Yu-Gi-Oh! Izuka Midoriya from My Hero Academia, Asta from Black Clover, and Dai from Dragon Quest, The Adventure of Dai, which Dragon Quest did have a manga, people, so it's kind of cool that they did represent that. But yeah, that's the characters. Besides the two original characters like Kane and Galena, which are going to be playable too, so probably they're in the storylines, they're original characters for the storyline. They're playable as well. That's kind of cool. And then we do know there's going to be 9 DLC characters. I'm not going to talk about that here. Partially, I'll bring them up in a little bit, but yeah, that's the base roster. And since it wasn't since it's been this, like, what was it, like a day or two ago when it was announced, this is the final roster, no more characters. Like, there's been people that have been on both sides of the fences. They're happy, and then there's people that are mad. And a lot of people, I'm kind of in the middle. I see both sides of the fence on this, which I usually do for most scenarios and most conflicts and stuff. Like, I could usually see both sides. I'm usually the one that's never really decisively on one or both sides. I'm kind of cool with the happy people because that's a lot of cool representation. Those are a lot of cool characters. We got a playable, Hisoka. We got Jotaro and Dio. We got Dai. We got, My Hero Academia represented. Black Clover represented. Yugi is back, which he wasn't in J Stars. He hasn't been seen in one of these crossover showing Jump games since the DS games, the Jump Stars. That's kind of cool. We got some more Bleach there. We got Saint Seiya. City Hunter was a out there choice, but kind of cool. And then cool representation for Dragon Ball Z and Naruto and One Piece and whatnot. I think overall the roster's pretty good. But on the flip side, the negative side, I can easily see why people are pissed, and I can even agree with them on certain extents why it feels like this roster is missing characters. People, this game is supposed to be the 50th anniversary of Weekly Shonen Jump. This, publication, this book series, the Weekly Shonen Jump, has been around since 1968. And there's been numerous popular series since then. Numerous ones. And with that being said, we have, 40 some odd characters here? You do obviously know that there's going to be numerous series missing. So that's obviously comes with the territory. We are never going to represent every single series. So I think a little bit, like, some people are kind of jumping the gun a little bit on that and when they're getting pissed and whatnot. But at the same time, we only have how many series represented here? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 series. Out of 40 characters, 15 series. Why? Because obviously they gave 6 characters to Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball, One Piece, and Naruto. Which I get because they're some of the biggest publicated series franchises to come out of Weekly Shonen Jump over the years. Obviously they were going to get more characters. I think they could have toned it down maybe by a character or so, just so they can throw other ones in. I know the DLC is coming. We're going to get more characters as DLC from already existing franchise represented in Jump Force alongside, series that haven't been represented in Jump Force yet. But that's not that much representation. I think more series were represented in J-Stars. I don't know how many were, but I'm sure there were more because there were more playable characters from different franchises that weren't, that aren't even playable in this one. But like I said, you can obviously, with 50 years of different manga series, different anime series, obviously there's going to be stuff missing. But to represent 50 years, you should represent more series instead of just the really big ones, the really popular ones, which they did jump out and give us, like Dai, which was a kind of a not everyone was really expecting that, or City Hunters, and bringing Yu-Gi-Oh back and stuff like that. But obviously, we're gonna get Naruto and Bleach and Dragon Ball and One Piece and so on and so forth. But there's numerous series missing, and I can see why people are mad, especially because if you were keeping up with YouTubers and various publications, like people are saying, like looking into leaks and rumored characters and stuff like that, there were other franchises rumored, like freaking, Hitman Reborn, or Medaka Box, or Assassination Classroom and stuff like that. There's numerous series missing that represent the history of Shonen Jump, and if this game is supposed to represent the 50th anniversary of Shonen Jump, and it is, you should want to pack that game with as many series as possible. And so far, we're not seeing that. We don't have Black Cat, Assassination Classroom, Kinnikuman, Food Wars, Toriko, Gintama, numerous series throughout its time. Psyche K, Shaman King, numerous other series have yet to be included at all. And some of those series had big runs as well, and big time history as well. There's obvious exclusions. First, two decades especially seem really, really barren, if anything at all. First and foremost, there's not many series that are from the 2000s. The only one I think that's really represented in this game, I think from the 2000s, is Bleach, and I think maybe technically Hunter x Hunter counts, even though I think it started in the late 90s. And we're talking about manga here mostly, given that it's mostly a celebration of Weekly Shonen Jump, which is a manga, so it's not really talking about the animes. The anime from these series is mostly talking about the manga. I do believe Hunter x Hunter started well back in the in the 90s after Yu Yu Hakusho ran up, given it's the same creator. So I think it is only Bleach. And then another missing decade is the 70s. Now I understand maybe not representing the 60s, even especially if it's only 2 years, like 68 and 69, 1968, 1969, and they're probably not that big a series to represent from back then. But the 70s was the first decade that Weekly Shonen Jump fully existed. Why not represent that? The oldest character franchise we got in here are basically Fist of the North Star, Saint Seiya, Dragon Ball, and City Hunters, all from the 80s. They never even dived back into the 70s, and there's numerous series that came out in the 70s. Like Kinnikuman. Like, it's weird that for them representing the history of it, they didn't give us too many new, old school characters. There was a lot of new stuff. The game focuses fairly heavily on the 80s, the 90s, and the 2010s. One representation franchise really from the 2000s, if we're going by manga publication, really. And if you're going by like anime, it does technically represent more 2000s, given that numerous series that started in the 90s got anime in the 2000s. So I guess I can say that most of these series do technically represent the 2000s in a way, but they focus heavily on recent stuff in 2010s, which obviously makes sense. So My Hero Academia, Black Clover, Boruto, makes sense. And a lot of stuff from the 90s, because there's a whole heck of a lot of Weekly Shonen Jump popular series in the 90s and 80s as well. But they're like the 70s are missing, and a lot of stuff from the 2000s are missing. And I don't want to sound like I'm complaining here, and a lot of this stuff can be in the DLC, but I'm looking at, like, if we only get like these 9 DLC characters, they really have to pick and choose from here. And I'm hoping that if it's only these 9 characters and they don't do like a season 2 or season 3, they don't be like, oh, let's put in Gohan and freaking Sakura and, Usopp and start representing more One Piece and Naruto and Dragon Ball characters. They should start being like, okay, let's represent like franchises that are not in there yet, like Hitman Reborn, Assassination Classroom, Black Cat, Shaman King, or give franchises that don't have too many characters, representation. My Hero Academia, Black Clover, Yu-Gi-Oh, Saint Seiya somewhat, and stuff like that. To end this video, because I don't want to be going on for too much longer. I'm already talking about like 15 minutes on this video. I actually overall like the roster. My final thoughts. I overall like the roster. I think they did pretty well with it, but it feels like for what they were going for, they're obviously missing a lot of representation, and I know there's a lot of people out there that would agree with me, and I'm hoping the DLC rectifies this, because it seems like what they were going for and what it's supposed to represent is kind of missing the point, given that you have to represent more series and more franchises and more manga, that came into this, the Weekly Shonen Jump book series throughout its life and throughout its run, and not just like the super popular ones or super recent ones, really, as well. You have to do old school, new school, popular and less popular, and more niche and more well known in order to represent the book properly. I think sort of J-Stars did it better because we got a lot more older series. They had numerous old school characters from like the 70s and 80s in that game, like Lucky Man. Why can't we get someone like that? Or can you command something? I know they just said no gag characters, but like not all those franchises were really gag oriented, and you can make movesets out of them anyways, and their history from the series. And I just don't get it. I'm sorry. I'm happy for it. I'm looking forward to the game. I'm really looking forward to it. There's a lot of favorite characters I like in the series that are going to be that are going to be in this game. But there's also numerous characters and numerous series that I feel are being left out, and it's a shame that they're being left out because really a lot of those series should be represented to give this game more diversity in terms of franchises represented, instead of them just giving numerous franchises 4, 5, 6+ characters, which really they could have toned down a bit on the main 3. I'm sorry to say they could have cut it down to 5 even. Those 3 spots could have gave us Assassination Classroom, Medaka Box, and Hitman Reborn. Just saying. That's my thoughts. I'm looking forward to it, but I obviously can still have a negative thought on it and my cons, and look at it properly on the fence, both sides. So yeah, put in the comments, do you guys agree with me? Do you guys think that there's numerous missing series, and what franchises do you want to see represented in the DLC, and what franchises do you think they missed to put on the base roster, which they could be the same franchise anyway? So just say what franchises are missing from Jump Force that are that are not on the base roster, or it could be DLC or whatever, that you think should be in there. So down there below and discuss it. My name is Cypress Fun. Peace. Please subscribe if you want to. Have a lovely day, and see you all later in my next video.